Today, Kenya's Supreme Court says that the presidential election was not conducted in accordance with the Constitution. That renders the result invalid, null and void. And President Uhuru Kenyatta was not elected properly. There will have to be a new election within 60 days. This is staggering after he was congratulated by many countries after he was inaugurated. For more, let's cross live to Kenya to our reporter on the ground, Sarah Kamani. Sarah, just take us through this revelation. What happened in the courts?
Well, the ruling did not last long, and the judgment was delivered by the Chief Justice of the country, who is also the President of the Supreme Court, David Maraga, and he read out the ruling indicating that President Kenyatta was not validly declared winner of the just concluded presidential elections. It also said that the judgment also said that the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission did not carry out those elections within the law. Now, they said this was a majority decision by the judges, although two judges dissented, and they read their dissension in court, indicating that one of them indicating that he would have actually thrown out the whole petition in its totality. The other one saying that the elections as it was conducted showed and indicated the wish of majority of Kenyans. Indeed, 15 million Kenyans who went to the ballot. Now, Kenya will have to go to another election in 60 days. This has driven people who support Raila Odinga in his stronghold here in Nairobi and also in the western part of the country out on the streets celebrating this what has been called a historic ruling by the Kenyan Supreme Court.
Sarah, this is incredible, and remind us what the issues were. I remember the opposition saying that they wanted access to the computer system, that it could have been hacked into. But all the election observers from the AU, from the Carter Center, were saying at least we have a physical trail, and basically suggesting that the opposition was jumping up and down about nothing, that all the poll results could be verified, tracked back to the polling stations. What has gone wrong here?
Indeed, when the opposition was allowed access to the servers, a lot of glaring irregularities were discovered. And these are some of the reasons why the judges who called out these elections, saying it had irregularities and illegalities, decided to say that it was not carried out according to the Constitution. There was also the issue of the results declaration form. It is now being said that the results were declared without 11,000 results declaration forms. The final results where Kenyatta was announced as the winner, they lacked those 11,000 forms out of the 40,883 polling stations. And so, and then some of the forms lacked the security details. Some of the signatures did not match those of the presiding officers. And so the judges say when they have put all this together, then the law was not followed to the letter in conducting the elections. They, however, did not read the complete judgment, and we will await that decision, they say, in 2 weeks to be able to know exactly how they reached their decision. However, Raila Odinga and his lawyers have called this ruling a victory. They're saying not just for Kenya, but for the continent, because this is the first time a presidential election has been nullified by a court of law. Now, Uhuru Kenyatta's lawyer has called this a political decision, and he says the court did not need to call for another election or to nullify this particular election.
The presiding officer, you're saying that the signatures were changed, and just to remind viewers that all political parties get together at the polling stations and sign off the results for that polling station. So now there are irregularities found. Does this suggest, Sarah, gross fraud?
Well, what they're saying is that not all political party agents signed, and NASA itself, that is the opposition party, has said that in some of the areas they did not have agents, and so that is probably why they're saying the mischief happened. But that will also have to be, now we will only know the details of exactly what happened when the main ruling is done. But some of the things that came out is that according to the Supreme Court, a lot of electoral laws were broken by the Commission while conducting this election. Indeed, the Chief Justice is saying the election is not just about that day. It is a process that culminates on the election day.
This is staggering. So the concern was that the opposition leader, Raila Odinga, would not accept quietly that he had lost the polls. There were fears of post-election violence. We didn't see that. Now, I guess the concern would be that the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, who's just been told that he's no longer president, won't be happy. You've suggested that he's already crying foul. Is there a real danger here of his supporters becoming angry, protesting? Is there a danger of violence?
Kenyatta remains president until the election is held in 60 days. Another president wins, or he wins, and that president is sworn in. Ideally, Kenyatta is still president. When Uhuru Kenyatta, when Raila Odinga filed the case in court, Uhuru Kenyatta told his supporters to await the decision of the court and that he would accept the decision. We are yet to receive a statement from him, but his lawyers here have said that they have accepted the decision of the court. Remember, this decision by the Supreme Court is not appealable. So this is a final decision, and the country must go to elections in 60 days. What we have seen is celebrations by Raila Odinga's supporters. We have not yet heard of any pockets of violence in Uhuru Kenyatta's strongholds, but there is heavy security across the country.
How have you had a chance to see how this is being received generally on the streets? Are Kenyans at work as usual, or is there a real ripple effect across the country today?
Well, the world fear that there would be violence. It happens to be a Muslim holiday here, so most of the Muslims were either at the mosque, in the mosque when the announcement was being made, or at home. In some schools that are near the city center and near the Supreme Court, they either asked children not to come to school today for fear of violence, or some of them sent their children back home early when it emerged that the announcement would be made at 11, the judgment would be made at 11 o'clock. What we have seen now where we are is celebration by Raila Odinga supporters. We're just outside the Supreme Court, where thousands and thousands of young men have come out onto the streets to celebrate. We have managed to speak to some of them, and they're saying that they're excited. They, however, said that they knew that Odinga would not be declared winner, but they're happy that this election has been nullified and Kenyans can go back to the ballot and their will can finally be heard.
Finally, Sarah, is this a real embarrassment for the African Union and for the Carter Center, I think the official name, both those observer bodies, if I recall correctly, basically saying that barring a few issues here and there, these elections were okay?
Well, what they said is the elections thus far, they didn't talk about the tally, they did not talk about the counting, they did not talk about the final announcement of the winner. They left that to the IBC, saying they would only deliver their judgment in 30 days after the winner had been declared. But of course, it brings to question if indeed they had observed some of these things that the Electoral Commission, that the opposition has raised, and a lot of people will be wondering then if observers can be fully trusted. Remember, even the local observers here in the country had also ruled that Uhuru Kenyatta got 54% of the vote and Odinga 47%. But you must realize that the contestation was not about the results, but about the process. And this is what has brought the ruling that you have had this afternoon.
Before we let you go, is the election body there ready for a whole new election in just 60 days? Have they said anything yet?
That is a big question. The Electoral Commission has not spoken, but the official opposition, led by Raila Odinga, has said that they will be seeking to have charges against the electoral commissioners who carried out this election, saying that they committed illegalities, they broke the law. Raila Odinga's lead lawyer, James Orengo, actually terming what happened as treason. But then they're also saying that they will not allow the IEBC, the Electoral Commission, to carry out these coming elections, saying that they cannot trust them to carry out a free, fair, and credible election.
All right, and I wonder what the alternative is. Thank you very much, Sarah Kamani, reporting live for us from Kenya. And incredible development today. The Kenyan Supreme Court, which she says its decision cannot be overturned. And it says that the presidential election was not conducted in accordance with the Constitution and is therefore invalid, null and void. And a lot of people thought that the opposition was perhaps crying foul for no reason, saying that the servers had been hacked, that they needed to see what was going on with those computer systems. Now they have gone in, they were given access, and huge discrepancies found. I think this raises so many questions. Thank you very much, Sarah Kamani. Those were a look at that breaking news, and of course we heard live from Harmony. We'll have some more market news after a short break.